There you go. A little bit of It Had to Be You. Hey, I'm Steve Krenz for Guitar Gathering. Thanks for joining us on this quick lesson about how to get your solos from sounding scaly. Have you ever had problems with your solos just sounding like they were just little bits and pieces of scales smashed together? Or another problem that we have with soloing sometimes is we will just get overwhelmed with theory and modes, and over this chord I have to use the Hungarian Mixolydian whatever, and on this chord I use, and you just get so lost in modes you forget what you're doing there, and you end up creating not a very good solo. And yet there are other times when you hear somebody solo and it just comes out just sounding so melodic, and it's something that you can remember and whistle on your way out of the concert. I've been to a lot of guitar concerts where it's 1,000, 10 million different notes, and you can't remember anything, but wow, what a technical show, and you don't remember anything of what's going on. One of the things that guitar players kind of get trapped into is approaching a solo as just a mathematical problem to solve. And so we either go one direction, we either go really scaly, where we're just playing scales all over the place, or we just start doing arpeggios and we get overwhelmed with theory. So a way to look at that, a way to look at soloing in a different light, is to think like a singer. Think like a melody when you're trying to create a solo. You want to take the listener on a journey with you. So if I have a simple chord progression here, I'll even throw in a couple of chords that are kind of out of the key just to kind of make it work a little bit better. So let me see if I can get my looper working, and we will try this. 3, 4. There it is. Okay, so I did kind of a G and an E minor, C, then I went to an E flat major ninth, an F. Okay, so that's my basic progression. Now, if I was thinking scale-like, well, maybe I could play a G major scale through all of that. When it comes to E flat, maybe I could do an E flat major 7th. Then it goes to an F. Alright, so I'm going to think of it different now. Instead of thinking scales, I'm going to think of it like a singer would, like I'm trying to create a melody, and see if we can come out with something that's a little bit more melodic. right, so it created a much more, stop that for a second, created a much more melodic sounding solo. And I wasn't being very complicated. I kind of stuck to the melody, maybe a few patterns in there of some things that the ear could grab onto, but you hear the difference in the approaches to the solo. I tried to create something that sounded more like a singer would approach it. And that's, sometimes you can get some really good melodic ideas that are not the standard, oh my goodness, it's a G major 7th, I've got to do my G major 7th lick. Or I've got to do a G major 7th scale, or I got to do a G scale, or C, and it's an E minor now I've got to do that. It takes you out of that realm and gets you into another realm of trying to create a melody. So instead of always trying to play arpeggios and fast stuff and all your favorite licks, it takes you completely out of that mode, takes you completely out of music theory and I ought to play this mode over that chord and this arpeggio over that chord, and it takes you into letting your ear guide you into creating a melody that works. Does that make sense for you? Let's try it. Let's try another one. So I've still, right on that particular one, I was kind of doing a G major 7th to an E minor to a C, and then I did an E flat major 9th, and then an F. So let's just play a little bit more with that. Let's get that going again. Arpeggios into that. Maybe E flat major 7th. Winding my way through the chords. Have that little melodic idea there. Okay, so let's say that's my little pattern. Da 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 da. Maybe I can work some things around that. Now I have to adjust it for the E flat coming up. That was a G major 7th arpeggio, just up and down. That was an E minor 7th over the C major 7th. All right. You can see how the ideas develop as you're coming out of that. Main thing is I want to try and create a melody that is singable, a soloing idea that's singable. Now, it may not be as flashy as some of the other stuff, but it creates a much more interesting solo to the mind, rather than just me noodling. If I noodle, it sounds like this. see your notes there, because I wasn't paying attention, because I'm just noodling. So you're just kind of musically mumbling, and it doesn't create a very interesting solo. You can even play fast and do fast stuff, but it doesn't create an interesting, memorable solo. You can come out of a a friend of mine went to a Snarky Puppy concert and came out of that incredibly musicianship. I mean, just ridiculous musicianship. And his quote coming out of that was, "Just because you can play all the notes, should you?" was his last comment as he left there. Rather unfulfilled musically, and yet you could go to an Earl Klugh concert, or maybe Chris Bodie, a kind of a smooth jazz trumpeter with just gorgeous melodies, and he's playing a fraction of the notes that these other folks are, and yet it's memorable and musical and very pleasing to your spirit with the music. Does that make sense? And a lot of times you can do that by approaching things as a singer would approach them. So that's a small thought on how to, when you're playing a solo, to kind of force yourself out of a box. Sometimes we get ourselves into these boxes. Guitar players like boxes. We like pentatonic boxes. And we start playing them, but we have a tendency to play them linearly, up and down the scale, up and down the box, instead of using a pentatonic scale as a collection of crayons. I've only got 8 crayons in my box. In the case of a pentatonic scale, I've got 5 crayons in my box, and I'm trying to create something magical using just those 5 notes. That's where the trick in learning your is. So let's play with that just for a second. So let's get the track going again. And I'm just going to do a pentatonic scale. So a pentatonic scale. Those are the 5 notes I can use. When we get to the other chord, I'll have to switch there for a second. If I normally did a pentatonic box, I would approach it up and down, which sounds very boring. It's boring. It's not interesting. But if I take the same notes and try and create something melodic with them, it changes. Wait till it comes around here again. Maybe we can add a little reverb on my guitar there, baby. Maybe an E flat. I played the same pentatonic notes, and it sounded melodic. It sounded like a melody. I didn't play anything complicated. I didn't go linearly up and down. I just played the notes and tried to create things starting on different notes. Here's another trick. Let's say I just pick a note to start on. Let's say I'm going to start on, what note could I start on of the G major pentatonic? Let's just start on an E, okay? So I'm going to start all of these ideas on an E. Now, am I feeling the E? No, this is a mental game I'm playing with myself. That went to E to D. Let's do a melodic idea starting on an A. Let's do another one starting on the B. Starting the idea on the B. Maybe I'll switch to a B flat here. Still kept the same idea though. Let's just keep going on that idea for a second. That's my little idea. Da 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 da. Let's go back to that B flat. I'm just playing a game with myself of doing little bits of ideas. And that will help you break out of a box. Here's another trick. Hey, just limit yourself. Limit yourself. I'm only going to play on one string. What string do you want me to play on? Ooh, let's make it challenging. Let's make it the 5th string. Okay? I'm only going to play ideas on the 5th string. I'm limiting myself, forcing myself out of a box. That's a little mental game I'm playing. I'll just do hammer-ons. Oh, wow. Hey, fantastic. I would have never thought to play. Would have, a million years would have thought to play that until I limited myself and said, I'm only going to play things on one string. Forcing myself out of just playing a scale. Everybody can play a scale. What should you play over a key change in G? Well, of course, a G scale. But we just keep going up and down the scale, or up and down the arpeggio, or up and down the pentatonic box. And it's good to force yourself out of that box. But Steve, when I don't play my favorite lick, and I don't play in the box, I sound terrible. And my thought to that is, yes, you do. And because you don't have any practice doing that. You're so used to playing in your box, you just feel uncomfortable when you don't have the guardrails up of a pentatonic box. So you got to figure it out. You got to kind of just take a note and see if I can make something happen with just one or two notes. And then I step away from that note a little bit, I step away from the note on this side, and I start to feel kind of what I can do. And I'm slowly stretching my thing, my musical ideas. It doesn't happen in 5 minutes. People do this for 5 minutes and say, I want to become a good soloist, I want to play by ear, and they piddle with it for 5 minutes and then give up. That's not how you do. That's not how you train your ear. There's a lot that has to go on to it, and you have to make a lot of mistakes before you start hitting some right notes. That's what I'm getting you to do. So one of the ideas is think like a singer. Try to create a melody when you're soloing, not just random licks chained together or a pentatonic box or a scale. Does that make sense? And how I do that, how I personally do that, is by limiting myself to different things. Other tricks that we've talked about in the past are, of course, Larry Carlton's super arpeggio. So what I mean by that is I'm superimposing other chords over certain chords. So like over that G major 7th, I can play a B minor. I can play a B minor 7th or a B minor pentatonic. Over the E minor 7th, I can play the third of that, which is a G, and I can do a G major 7th, arpeggio or pentatonic or something like that. Over the C chord, well, I could do an E minor 7th. Ooh, for the E flat major 7th, I go up to its third and make it minor, and I play a G minor 7th. And you'll be amazed at all the wonderful things you can come up with, and it sounds like you're playing all these creative tones, and you're just superimposing the one chord and one arpeggio and one pentatonic scale over a different chord. Let's see how that happens. So I'm going to do this. How it's going to work is over the G major 7th, I'm going to go up to its third, make it minor, and play a B minor 7th, arpeggio or something like that. Over the E minor 7th, I'm going to go to its third, which is a G, and flip it. So now I'm going to play G major 7th arpeggio. Over the C, I'm going to go to its third, which is an E, and I make it minor, flip it, so I make it minor, E minor 7th. Over the E flat major 7th, I'm going to play a G minor 7th, go to its third, and then play a G minor 7th. Got into some theory there. Don't let it scare you. I'm just giving you different tricks that you can use. All right, so here we go. Let's see if we can do it. B minor 7th. This is the E minor 7th. I'm going to play a G major 7th. Over the E, I'm going to play an E minor 7th. Back to the G major 7th. I'm playing a B minor. Over the E minor, I'm going to play a G major 7th. Over the C, I'm going to play an E minor. G minor here. Back to B minor 7th. C, I'm going to do an E minor 7th. G minor 7th. Do you see how? Now, I know that was, I threw a little bit of theory at you, and look at you, Willard, saying, my brain hurts. Yes. Okay, when in doubt, write it out. Okay, just figure it out. All I did was go up to the third of each of those chords and flip it, whether it's major or minor, and I'm doing that arpeggio. And it sounds amazing. So over this E minor 7th, I'm going to play a G major 7th arpeggio. That's a pure G major 7th arpeggio. And yet over the E minor, it sounds so wonderful and exotic. Oh, Steve, you're incredible. No, I've got my one trick that I'm doing. I'm going up to the third of whatever chord I am, flipping it, and playing that arpeggio, and trying to create something with that. There you go. All that, but I still don't want to get too busy and just start musically mumbling. If I just start musically mumbling, it doesn't create a good, memorable solo. Even when I'm doing arpeggios and superimposing different things, I want to try and create something that is sounds like a melody, which is really tough to make something sound like a melody, but it's really good. If you can sing it, chances are it's a pretty good indication that you're creating a good solo that's going to be memorable. Also, here's another trick. If you're soloing like over let me get out of this one. And let's say I was soloing over It Had to Be You. Here I've got It Had to Be You here. So let me create a little track with It Had to Be You. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's basically kind of It Had to Be You. Now, there's a lot of chords flying by. I could get lost in that trying to keep up with each one of those different chords. But I know the melody works. So if I play the melody, I'm never going to be too far off from what is right. Okay? So let me play the melody, and then I'll show you how I can build off the melody. Purely played the melody. Now let me start messing around. You still hear the melody in there. So a good way to solo is just by playing the melody and noodling around the melody. What I kind of did there is I was taking like maybe the first note of each phrase of the melody and then building an idea off of that. So I'm not having to think about all this sort of stuff. I'm just basically playing the melody and yet veering off the trail every now and then. That's another way to approach soloing. And you're never going to be too far away from a right note if I stay close to the melody. So that's a thought there. Anyway, just wanted to give you guys some ideas there to think about when you're soloing. Doug is saying, say you're soloing, say G, and the next couple of chord changes come and go, but you just blow through the chord changes with your G ideas. Do we need to change our solo area per change? The short answer is there's a lot of chords, and if I try and analyze things up and down, oh, this chord is a C ninth, oh, this chord is a G, I'll end up with a very jagged solo that doesn't make any sort of melodic sense. Think of it like this. It's a river, okay? So while, yes, I can take a snapshot of just that point in time when I'm going, and just for that eighth of a second while I'm playing that, yes, a C ninth arpeggio would work great over that C ninth. But I can't think of it like that way because it comes so fast. There's a C ninth. Oh, and then went on to something else. It's a river. So I can't just analyze things as if it was a still picture. I have to think of the overall line that is happening. So how I do that is I want to be aware of those chords that are changing, Doug, but I don't necessarily have to hit everything that's going by. Now, if it's a major chord that's kind of out of the key or the tonal center changes a little bit, like, oh, we got to, it's pretty much a G major 7th for the first couple of bars, then it goes to an E7, a major change. So I have to at least hit notes that are in the E7. What notes are in the E7th? Well, let's go back and think of what notes are in the G. The G, it's a G, B, D, maybe a G, B, D, F sharp. What notes are in an E7th? An E, G sharp, B, and a D. So the only note that really changed was the G sharp. It went from a G to a G sharp between that two chords. So if I want to sound like I'm making that chord change, I deliberately hit that G sharp, and that will help you sound like you're making the change because you're hitting the one note that is changing between the two chords. The next chord it comes to is an A seventh, an A, C sharp, E, G. Well, an A, an E, and a G, those are already in the key of G. Those aren't really special, but the C sharp is. So I will go out of my way, like with those skiers in the Olympics that are going downhill, and they have to go around those flags here and there, and they have to go way over here to catch this one, way over there to catch that flag. I'm in my solo. I'm deliberately going way over here to catch that G sharp on that E seventh chord, and deliberately way over here to catch that C sharp on the A seventh chord. And then it's going to sound like I made the change. Don't believe me? Let's play it. G. G sharp. I went right to the C sharp there. Now it goes to C natural. Back to that C sharp again. I'm going out of my way to hit the note that is flipped, that is changed, to hit the interesting note in all of those chords. Now, you put a few ideas around that, and that makes a little bit more musical sense than what I was doing there. But that's how it's going to sound. That makes it sound like if you're wanting to make the key change. Any other questions on that? Let me talk about some other stuff. I want to talk about how to take a lesson. This seems like a simple thing, how to take a guitar lesson. But it's not so simple. For those of us that teach a lot, I am amazed that they never write anything down. Rarely do people record the lesson. Take your phone out and record it. For me, I forget everything. So if I don't have a recording of it, I walk out and I go, wow, what a great lesson. But by the time I get back home, I have no idea what we talked about. First thing is bring a pencil and something to write on. Whip out your phone, and if you're taking a lesson, record the lesson. If you're taking a Zoom lesson, record the Zoom meeting. It's easy. Just record the Zoom meeting. And you've got the lesson. Then, okay, because you've at least got it then. Here's another thing. I don't want this to sound wrong, but I want you to hear what I'm saying. I'm amazed that people take lessons from me and then don't do what I say. Not that I'm a big egotistical maniac, but you're coming to someone who has more experience than you, and they tell you this is what you need to do, and then you go off and you do whatever you want to do, and you come back the next week, and you expect there to be change, and it doesn't happen that way. If I knew every good idea, let's say I was taking a lesson from Ian Ethan Case, okay, who's in our chat tonight. We are honored to have a Ian Ethan Case in our chat tonight. If I was taking a lesson from Ian Ethan Case, who has so much to give, and I'm not worthy to carry the man's picks. If I was taking a lesson from him and paying for his time, by golly, I would be having a pencil. I would have a yellow pad out there. I would be recording the lesson, maybe even trying to take a video of the lesson, anything to try and gather as much information as I could. If he's giving me a resource, then I'm going to look that resource up and run it into the ground. Now, but here's the main thing. When I get home, I can't just go, wow, what a great lesson. I've got to then go to the woodshed and start working on whatever he gave me to work on. Because I can explain a couple of concepts to you in, a couple of minutes, but unless you actually spend time with them, you don't get any better. Does that make sense? And so I'm amazed at how many people I teach lessons to that do not record the lessons, do not write anything down, and then, worst of all, don't practice anything and come back the next week and, expect to be doing great things. And I'm happy to teach it to them again, but it's take a little nugget out of what you're getting a lesson for. Does that make sense? I remember I took a lesson from this guy in San Antonio one time. I don't remember anything that he said. Didn't write it down. But I do remember this. He taught me if I'm in like F and I'm playing a C7th, C11th sort of a chord, that you can do a B minor Got a B minor arpeggio over that. Over that C dominant, and it sounds really hip. It just sounds, it has a flat 9 to it. So I don't remember what else he taught me because I didn't write it down, but I remember that one lick, and I've used that lick ever since then. Is when you're over a dominant chord in a jazz tune, like the 5, then go to the 4 and play the minor, and it sounds really hip. Just a little idea. And I got that one idea, and I've used it and ran it into the ground ever since. So just some thoughts on taking how to take a guitar lesson and make the most out of it. You're paying money. Tell your instructor exactly what you want to cover. Tell him what you want to get, or else he's just going to start teaching you whatever is his favorite lick of the day. So tell him what you want. You're the one paying him. Tell him what you want him to cover. And then listen carefully to what he's saying, record it, write it out, do whatever you need to do, and then work on it all week long so you can get the most out of the lesson. Gosh, I forget so much stuff. And if I can just get a little bit of an idea, then that works. A little seed of an idea. I was listening to a solo, just rambling here. I was listening to a solo by a great guitarist, Laurie Basilio, L-A-R-I-B-A-S-I-L-I-O, Basilio. Wow, what a great guitarist. She's out of the West Coast. She's amazing. Laurie Basilio. And she had one lick. It was basically that over a B minor. Let's just get a B minor going here. Okay, so, and here's basically the seed of the lick. Yeah, that was basically it. And how you spin out of it is up to you. But basically the lick is right up a B minor 7th arpeggio, but I'm going from the F sharp to the B, hammering to the C sharp, sliding up to the D, and then playing the rest of the arpeggio. And then I can spin out of that a bunch of ways. But just that little seed. All this, the seed of the idea is this. And then you could spin out of it a bunch of different ways. And so I took that and I thought, gosh, I did it on this string set. What if I did it on the next string set down? It doesn't land as well, but I could maybe get another idea out of it. Again, there's a lick. What if I could do it maybe on the low? Let's see. I have to change my fingering. Maybe I could do that. There's a lick. Little enclosure there getting it back at the B. You know, and I just think about these. So all I needed was a little seed, and then I spun it off into 5 or 6 different licks. Hey, let me play my baritone. Kind of feeling jazzy. We'll play something jazzy. Maybe Satin Doll. Well, I haven't played Satin Doll in a while. We'll see if I can remember it. Keep up the great work in your own learning. Learn what you can. And we will see you guys next time.